Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to my channel, my Loverlies. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I am so happy you found me. I do so hope that you will like and subscribe before you leave. Become part of the Mama family. Mama's got your back, at least where makeup's concerned, and definitely when that makeup is cheap. Today is True Love Tuesday, and we are talking about one of my favorite people of all time. I'm not talking about just a famous person. Well, yeah, a famous person, but literally one of my very favorite celebrities of all time. I truly believe she is a treasure. She is an absolutely fantastic human being. I just love her to pieces. We're talking about Dolly Parton and Carl Dean today. Guys, if you've never been here for True Love Tuesday, I sit here, I do my makeup, I tell you guys an epic love story, and we basically just hang out for a little while. I did do my eyes already. I, of course, did a TikTok on the look. If you are interested, I will have the link for that in the description box below. I always post finished pictures over on Instagram and Facebook, and under all of those pictures is always a full product list. But if you guys ever have any questions about what I used or how I used it, just leave me a comment and I will get back to you. As well as putting all of the links to all my other socials, I will put a list of all of the products that I'm going to use in today's video in the description box as well. So, moving right along into today's video, into the story, I am so excited. On top of that, I have a ton of quotes and stuff from Dolly herself. So it's almost like she's telling her own story. I love it. I am so very excited. If you guys see me looking over in this direction, it is because I am looking at my notes. I cannot seem to remember things at all. So I make sure I have my notes so I don't sit here and just fib to you. As always, guys, there's no edits. There's no nothing in my videos. So the notes are necessary. They are very necessary. So, in the beginning, there was Dolly and there was Carl Dean. And, you know, not a lot is known about Mr. Carl Dean. He is an incredibly private person. He wants nothing to do with the spotlight or fame, anything like that. And, you know, quite honestly, I think Dolly really appreciates that, because it allows her to keep her lives kind of compartmentalized. It allows her to keep the Hollywood business, and then when she comes home, she just gets to be Dolly. And if you really think about it, I think that is so smart and really kind of special. Not a lot of celebrities get to have relationships like that, you know what I mean? So, Dolly Parton and Carl Dean tied the knot in 1966 after meeting at a local laundromat. Can you believe it? And this was way before Dolly Parton was Dolly Parton. She was just Dolly from, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg. If you've never been to Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge, I actually live like right there. So she is one of my, basically a hometown hero for me. I absolutely adore her. She also has an amusement park out in Gatlinburg. I absolutely love it. It's actually Sevierville. But I love Dollywood. If you've never been, it is so much fun. We try to go at least once a year because it's expensive. All amusement parks are expensive, but it is such a beautiful, amazing kind of park. She's got trains that run through it, like real actual trains that run through it. The rides are fantastic. The food is phenomenal. It's just a really fun time. But it just kind of is another way that I get to feel, like she's a hometown hero again. Because and who do you know that really has a fully functioning freaking amusement park, right? And on top of that, her Christmas specials, like she performs and stuff at Dollywood during Christmas. Her Christmas extravaganza is absolutely amazing. Oh, I just love it. I love Dollywood. I love her. And then she also does a program. It's, what is it? Dolly's Library, something like that. And you can sign up for it. And until you reach a certain age, she will send you a book to read every single month. Actually, Sean was a part of it. And he used to love getting his own mail. He used to love looking forward to getting a book, like his present, from Miss Dolly Parton every month. It was so much fun. But if you have a toddler and, you like to read and you like to read together, definitely look into that because she does. All you got to do is sign up and she will send you a free book every single month. I think until your child hits 7 or 8. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's like 7 or 8. So they met at a laundromat, right? So they first met in the 1960s, and neither of them could have imagined that Dolly was going to end up becoming the Dolly Parton that we know and love right now. She was just a little girl from the mountains. Really, she loved to sing. She was absolutely beautiful, but she was just kind of like a little backwoods country girl, right? And, you know, you can dream, right? But they never really knew if those dreams were going to come true or not. So when Carl Dean met Dolly, she was just another person. She was just an average person. And Carl Dean was, you know, if you're from a small town, you would know there's always that one guy. There's always that one guy and that one girl who everybody has a crush on. And Mr. Carl Dean was that one boy everybody had a crush on. And of course, Dolly was the one girl that all the boys had a crush on. But they met, and it was kind of like almost love at first sight. So neither of them could have imagined that Dolly would become the country legend she is today. And despite her husband preferring a much more private life, the couple found a way to make their marriage work. When Dolly Parton first met her hubby, Mr. Carl Dean, she was 18 years old. And again, you know, us country girls, we pretty much know what we want. And once we find what we want, we kind of lock it down. We lock it down real quick. Carl Dean was 21. So just a couple years older than her, and had spotted Dolly outside the local wishy-washy laundromat. What a name. The local wishy-washy laundromat. And he remembers, and one of the only public statement that he has ever made was for an anniversary. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, but an excerpt from that public statement was, "My first thought was, I'm going to marry that girl," he recalled. And then his second thought was, "Lord, she's good looking." I love it so much. And I don't think there is a person on earth that could look at Miss Dolly Parton and think, well, yeah, she's not very cute at all. I think she is the most adorable little thing absolutely ever. That laugh, the giggle, it's the whole package. And, you know, I think also, I love that she is so open about everything. She is very open about all of the surgeries that she's had, all of the enhancements that she's made to her body. And one of my very, very favorite quotes from her of all time is she said, "It takes a lot of money to look this cheap." And it just kind of like stuck with me for some reason. She's just so open. She has no shame. She's a good Southern God-fearing woman, right? But she has no shame. She doesn't judge. She doesn't, I love her. I love her whole vibe. Anyway, Lord, she's good looking. That's what Mr. Carl Dean is thinking. So while she is, you know, they date for a couple of years, and he was actually so persistent trying to get her to go out on their first date that actually the first time she agreed to take him out, he actually took her to meet his parents, because he knew that the minute he met her, that the minute she agreed, that he was never going to let her go. He knew that she was the one he wanted, she was the one he picked, and he basically just kind of made it happen. He was like, "You're gonna go meet my mom and daddy because it's time they meet their future daughter-in-law." I thought that was super cute. After 2 years of dating, they were ready to tie the knot. But at this time, Dolly is she's starting to blow up. She's definitely starting to get more famous. And of course, she is signed to a record label, things like that. And you know, the record labels, they always want to have a say in the artist's kind of personal life, things like that. So when Dolly went to her record label and was like, "I'm ready to get married," they basically told her, was like, "No, give it a little while," you know, basically not wanting, they still wanted her to appear available, right? Because of course sex sells, and once you're married, the appeal kind of goes down just a little bit, because you're no longer available, right? Your fans can no longer, the dream is gone, right? You're married, you're locked down. So the record label said, "No, please just give us a little while. Just give it a couple years. Let's establish your career first, and then you can do whatever you want to do." And Miss Dolly was absolutely not having it. They had concerns it could hinder her career, but that didn't stop Dolly. She responded to her label by saying, "I ain't waiting." Dolly and Carl were forced to elope. So instead of them getting a nice big wedding, you know, at a nice big church with everybody they know and love present, they kind of had to like go behind the record labels back just a little bit. So they ended up eloping, and they eloped to Georgia. They set their vows in a little Baptist church in northwest Georgia in the town of Ringgold on May 30th, 1966. Dolly told People magazine, "I had a little white dress and a little bouquet of flowers, and my mom went with me. The only people who actually ended up attending her wedding were the pastor and his wife, her mother, and then, of course, Dolly and Carl Dean." So you know, she was happy. She just wanted to be married, and she, you know, she achieved her goal. But she didn't get the big wedding. She didn't get the day that was all about her. She didn't get the dream, right? The dream wedding. That was okay with Dolly, though. All she really cared about was that her and Carl Dean belonged together, and they got that accomplished. So, life goes on. She said that even though it was a teeny tiny little wedding, she really, really enjoyed herself. She said that her mom was there. Her mom was there, super, super supportive, and they just kind of, they just went for it. She wasn't going to let anybody tell her when and where and why and how. Dolly lives her life on her terms. So they get married. Now, at this point, again, Dolly is a rising star. She is shooting, like, her fame is growing exponentially. It seems like overnight. 1 minute, nobody knew who she was, and the next minute, everybody was obsessed with her, right? So, things are getting, like, really, really hectic. And Carl Dean, again, he never really wanted to be a big part of that life, right? Like, he knew it was a possibility, but I don't think he was fully prepared for how famous and how popular she would get, especially as quickly as it happened. So, what does it say? Dolly was becoming a rising star in the late 60s, but it wasn't something that bothered her more private partner, Carl Dean. She even had to head off to a radio appearance the morning after their wedding. They pushed back the honeymoon so she could focus on other commitments. Because he prefers to avoid the limelight, Carl Dean has only accompanied Dolly to one industry event. Y'all, and they've been married like 57 years. And he has only gone out with her, like, not like gone out with her, but he has only gone to one work event with her, one, out of 57 years. And y'all know, like, Dolly's probably been to, like, thousands of public events, and he's only been to one with her. And there's a quote about it. They went to an industry event once, a BMI dinner in 1966. Now, this is what Dolly has to say about that. She said, "So Carl and I got dressed up. He was in a tux, and we drove to the dinner." She told Oprah, "We got out and walked up the red carpet and went inside and sat through dinner and the awards. After the dinner, Carl turned to me and said, 'Dolly, I want you to have everything you want, and I'm happy for you, but don't you ever ask me to go to another darn one of these things ever again.'" Carl Dean stayed away from the spotlight ever since. Now, you might be asking, well, what did he do to occupy his time? Well, Carl Dean, a good country boy, Southern man through and through, not going to just sit at home and not do anything. So he actually ends up opening a business. And what business, you might ask? What kind of business does the husband of the one and only Dolly Parton, what does he do? Apparently he does asphalt. Instead ran an asphalt laying company in Nashville, running the pavement business as far back as 1977. So, excuse me, very quickly after they got married, he decided, you know, I'm not going to sit home, and I'm not just going to be, you know, Dolly Parton's husband. I want things that occupy my time. I want to do something constructive. You know, I need to work, right? And of course, they didn't need the money. Like, you know, wasn't for the money. But I think a lot of it was the principle for him. He just didn't want to sit there and be a kept man. He didn't want to sit there and not do anything with his life. So he goes out and he opens a paving company, and actually was really, really successful with that, and ran it for a good long while. What happens next? Lots of notes here, guys. Lots of notes here. So it says, Another quote says, "We've been together for most of our lives. I always joke and laugh when people ask me what's the key to my long marriage and lasting love. I always say, stay gone." And there's a lot of truth to that. I travel a lot, but we really enjoy each other when we're together and the little things we do. They had an extremely sweet courtship. And again, like, I feel like it kind of reminds me a lot of my Mr. Hubby, because he's just very quiet, right? I'm a very open, outgoing, very much like Dolly Parton, though there's no comparison, but same kind of personality. Open and loud and honest and just basically an open book, right? I have absolutely no secrets. But when it comes to Mr. Hubby, he is very quiet, very subdued, very keeps to himself, things like that. And quite honestly, I think the yin and yang of our relationship, I always say I'm the fire to his ice, it very much applies to Dolly Parton's relationship as well. I think when you have the one person who's like willing to be the face of the relationship, you need, or like that one person who's like this big personality, right? You need the opposite of that, someone to ground you, someone to keep your feet planted in reality just a little bit, someone to kind of cool you off when you get too hot. And I definitely feel like that is what Carl Dean was for Dolly. They had an extremely sweet courtship that was very, very low key. To this day, again, they are not a lot is known about their relationship, like privately. That's why there's a lot of quotes in today's video, just because they're such private people. Their private life is, they don't broadcast it. They go to not extreme measures, but they make sure that they keep their private lives separate from Dolly's career. So, but they make a point to focus on their relationship as well. So when they go out on dates, quite often, but it's not like they're going to go out to like the hippest club in town. They're not going to go out to the most crowded bar. It says that they purposely find out of the way spots, and spots that aren't generally frequented very often. And that's where they go. They definitely prefer like local, kind of teeny tiny little spots, as opposed to bigger places with more people that they might get recognized. She said, "When I met my husband, he wanted to take me out to dinner. He pulled up to the drive-in window and got our food at McDonald's." She said, "We know a few little places we can go without being bothered. He only likes to go places where he can be comfortable. He just don't have any desire to be in show business," she told Playboy in October of 1978. She said, "He doesn't want to have his picture in the paper. He doesn't want to go out to the supermarket and have people say, 'Oh, there's Dolly Parton's husband,' right?" It is so smart, right? Because he doesn't want himself as a person to be swallowed by her celebrity. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons a lot of celebrity couples don't work, right? Is because, unfortunately, there's always that one person that is more popular. There's always that one person that is just a little bit more famous. And, egos bruise easily. And even men, even the best of men, have an ego, right? Women, men, we all have an ego. So it would be very, very difficult, I think, to go out, and instead of someone saying hi because they're genuinely happy to see you, right? They're going to say, "Hi, how's your wife? Hi, how's your wife? Like, how's your wife doing? I don't care about you, but you're just an extension of your wife," right? So you cease to be a person. And I think by keeping himself out of the spotlight, and really nobody really knows what he looks like, he's not recognizable in any way like that. So he is allowed to lead and live a relatively normal life without losing his own identity. And that's super, super smart. It says, "Carl Dean is so private that pictures of him are scarce, but you can see him on the cover of Dolly's 1969 album, My Blue Ridge Mountain Boy." Now, I did find a picture of that, and I thought it was absolutely the most adorable thing ever. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. I might use it as the thumbnail for today's video, but I found another picture that I thought was really, really cute, so I might use that one instead. But I did look at the cover, and he's basically just standing in the background. Dolly's kind of like in the forefront doing her thing. He's just kind of standing in the background, not really looking like he doesn't really know what's going on. I thought it was super cute and funny. It says Carl Dean is so private that pictures of him don't exist. In October of 1973, Dolly released the song Jolene, which, you know, we all associate with Miss Dolly Parton. Of course, it's one of my very, very favorites of hers ever. I don't think that there is a song that Dolly has ever made that I didn't enjoy an astronomical amount. I just love her voice. I love the way that she sings. Anyway, Jolene is one of the songs that she is most popular for, right? Everybody knows the song Jolene. But did you know the backstory of that song? Because I certainly did not. Well, apparently, Dolly released the song Jolene, which she says was inspired by a bank teller who had a major crush on Mr. Hubby. And I thought that was so, so cute. She says, she got this terrible crush on my husband, and he just loved going to the bank because she paid him so much attention. She said, it was kind of like a running joke between us. When I was saying, heck, you're spending a lot of time at that bank. I don't believe we've got that kind of money. So it really is innocent. It's an innocent song, right? She's basically just giving him, you know, just giving him lip, right? But it sounds so very fierce. The way that it's recorded, things like that, it sounds like she really is mad. But the truth behind the song is she's really just kind of joshing around with her husband, which was something new to me. I love when I do these videos and learn something new about something I thought I knew about. So that's fun. But life wasn't always perfect or easy for their marriage. In the early 1980s, Dolly had an affair of the heart. Now, Dolly has never actually cheated on her husband, but they got married when she was 18, right? That was very, very young. And on top of that, you've got this woman who is incredibly popular, who works continuously, and is generally surrounded by a ton of people, most of whom are men, most of whom are probably incredibly attractive. And, you know, of course, people get curious. The more time you spend with somebody, the more the possibility there is that you're going to develop feelings for them. And unfortunately, that is what happened with Dolly and her band manager, I believe. The Perfect or Easy Marriage. In the early 1980s, Dolly had an affair of the heart with her band leader, Greg Perry. She says, Greg and I became very close. I had never spent so much time with such a well-educated and knowledgeable man. I let myself get completely tangled up in him. Things went sour for the pair while producing the music for Dolly's 1982 film, The Best Little Hoe House in Texas. Y'all, it is legitimately my favorite freaking movie of all time. You have to like musicals because it's definitely a musical, but I don't think I own it on DVD. There isn't a song in that movie that I cannot sing word for word. My mom had it. My mom loves Dolly Parton too. But my mom had that movie on VHS when it first came out. And I remember watching it. And I remember watching it like over and over and over and over again. And just loving the music and just loving the whole vibe, right? Plus, I always really had a thing for Burt Reynolds. Ooh, that's another point we're going to get to here in just a second. But she gets very involved, very like emotionally involved, because again, she has never physically cheated on her husband, but she did get very emotionally involved with Greg. But during this movie, things went wrong. Things went terribly wrong. Actually, the filming of that movie was very, very difficult for everyone involved. She said, then things went sour for The Best Little Hoe House in Texas. It was not a fun project for anyone involved. Then Greg quit altogether. She said, he told me he couldn't take the pressure and the BS of the business anymore. The joy had gone out of it for him, and I'm sure that I was no picnic to live with at that time either. I was crushed when he left. It just about killed me. I must have cried an ocean. And, you know, especially when you spend that much time with anyone, of course, a friendship is going to form. And then you have somebody who is as, you know, I want to say kind of fairly naive and as unexperienced, right? Because though Dolly is Dolly Parton, she's still not a very worldly woman, right? She's still a small town girl at heart. And it's very hard to not get feelings, like get caught up in your feelings when, you know, you're with somebody like 20 hours of the day. And it kind of broke her heart. Like, and again, she never cheated on her husband, but there was definitely an emotional attachment for her there, and it broke her heart very much when Greg left. But they were able to, Dolly was able to persevere, and they were able to, you know, eventually get the film done, and it turned out to be like an extreme hit. Everybody I have ever talked to who has seen that movie absolutely adores it. And of course, she wrote all of her own music for that movie. And of course, after the movie was filmed, she had to go and record all that stuff. So it was pretty much a very big production. But they were able to pull everything together in the end, get everything squared away. And of course, the movie became an absolute gigantic hit. But in 1982, Dolly denied rumors of a divorce. She said, Dean was the man God intended for me to have. We will just always be together. She says to him, it is all a joke. There ain't a man in this world that could ever live up to my husband. That's one of the things that keeps me from going too far. Now, I remember when that movie came out, there were so many rumors swirling all over the place that Dolly was having an affair with Burt. You remember how beautiful Burt Reynolds was in that movie? I remember watching it and being a very little girl and having the absolute biggest crush on that man. I thought he was just absolutely beautiful. There is a scene in that movie where they're kind of sneaking around together, and they sing a song, Sneaking Around, and he's wrapped up in a blanket, and they're kind of dancing around in the bedroom, and I remember thinking, oh, and he's got his shirt off, and all you see is like that nice broad back and those broad shoulders. I remember thinking, ooh, that's a nice looking back. I had the absolute biggest crush on him. And I just thought him and Dolly together were so absolutely gorgeous together. And they had such great chemistry in that movie that, you know, of course, cheating rumors are instantly going to surface. And I think a lot of it was wishful thinking on the part of the public, just because they did have such great chemistry. It just would have been nice, you know, like it would have been, it's what we wanted. We wanted to see Dolly and Burt together. But that actually didn't happen. She never had an affair with Burt. She never crossed that line. The whole time she wasn't focused on Burt at all. She was actually focused on her band director. So go figure. She said in 2012, Dolly used Carl Dean as her muse while writing a track for Joyful Noise. Now, I know Joyful Noise was another big one. I believe it's got Keke Palmer in it, and was it Queen Latifah? Was Queen Latifah in that movie? I think she was. I love Queen Latifah too. Anyway, Joyful Noise came out. It's another musical, but it is a church-based musical. Really fantastic movie. But when that movie came out, she said, I needed to write a beautiful love song. I picked my husband, who I love, and I thought, well, I'll just write some beautiful song about him. Dolly ended up writing From Here to the Moon and Back, which is an absolutely gorgeous song, and of course, she performs it beautifully. And she said, it was about my husband in the movie. So I thought, in order to make it really real and really touching, I would write it about someone I really do love and have loved for more than half my life. Carl Dean and Dolly make a point to regularly visit the town that they got married in. And remember, I said that they got married in Ringgold, Georgia. They make a point to regularly visit the town, the town that they got married in. Most often, they will go and visit for their anniversary, and they try to go every single year, but the longest they will go without going is 3 years. So at least every 3 years, they go back to the town they got married in, and they just kind of like relive that part of their lives together, relive that part of their relationship, and I think that is such a smart idea. But they, of course, personally know the governors, I'm not sure, but they know someone in town, and that person makes sure that they are able to visit in relative peace, and make sure that they are able to enjoy their time in town and not be plagued by, thousands of people asking for pictures and autographs. So I just thought that was a cute little factoid that they go back and visit the town they got married in at least once every 3 years. I think that is a super smart thing to do, quite honestly. Then says, Carl, Dean, and Dolly make a point of going back at least every 3 years for their anniversary. Then they renewed their vows on May 30th, 2016. And this one's a big one. They renewed their vows for their 50th wedding anniversary. I honestly, I hope and pray that I can make it to my husband and I's 50th anniversary. We're just now coming up on our 13th or 14th. And that, 13 or 14 seems like an awfully big number, right? But you compare 13 or 14 to 50 and it's just so minuscule and almost nothing, right? 50 years old, that's 50 years together. That's an entire lifetime. That's an entire lifetime of sharing every moment with another person. It's insane. But for their 50th wedding anniversary, they decided that they were going to do it up. So they actually renewed their vows. They actually got remarried, I guess. Had the whole big kit and caboodle. But they had the kit and caboodle, Dolly's and Dean's idea of the kit and caboodle. So she says, I got all dressed up in the most beautiful gown you've ever seen. I even dressed that husband of mine up too. He looked like a handsome dude out of Hollywood. We had a few family and friends around. We didn't plan anything big at all because we didn't want that kind of strain. We didn't want any kind of tension, any kind of commotion. So we planned it cleverly and carefully. Try to blend this stuff out before I get so wrapped up in the story. The makeup becomes not quite so important. But we planned it carefully and cleverly. We just had a simple little ceremony at our chapel, at our place. And of course, she's Dolly Parton, so I'm sure she has some big giant estate. And on that estate, of course, she has a church because she's a good God-fearing woman. So they just got remarried in their own little chapel on their own little property. Had the closest, their closest relatives, the people they love most in the world present. And basically just kind of reaffirmed their love for each other, which is something I definitely want to do with Mr. Hubby once we get to that place. And once, if we ever have the money to do it, I definitely want to renew my vows and actually have a wedding. Mr. Hubby and I got married when we were pretty young. I think he was 24 and I was 20. But we were really, really young, and I really didn't plan it. I was so overwhelmed with the whole kind of situation that I basically just let my mom take care of everything, and it was definitely not what I wanted. I'm grateful because we were able to get married and we were able to, celebrate our union and things like that. But now that I'm older and now that I have a clearer idea of what I would like my wedding to look like, I really, really want to, at some point in the future, renew our vows. And I think that's such an awesome thing to do anyway, because you kind of get to relive the freshness, right? Because I remember my wedding day, any wedding day, and I remember how excited and how nervous I was. I remember how just hopeful I was as well. I was so excited to be starting this new life with the person that I love the most in the whole wide world. And I don't know, it was just kind of fantastic and overwhelming. But I think as you get older and when you do kind of renew your vows, I think it's different because you know this person so much more now. It's not about hope and things like that. Well, of course, it's about hope for the future, but it's even more so about a choice, right? You're making this choice. You're not saying, oh, I hope this works, right? You're saying, this does work. I love you. I'm choosing you again. I would choose you a million times over and over and over again. And I think that's why wedding, recommitment ceremonies are so special, just because you're making the choice again, even after you already know how it's going to go, right? You already know, you've already been through the ups and downs, and you're basically standing in front of the person that you love most, and you're basically saying, I wouldn't change a moment of it. And I think that is so incredibly poignant. It's special and beautiful. So they renewed their vows at their wedding chapel on their property. She said in his first ever public statement in honor of their 50th anniversary, Carl Dean also expressed his love for Dolly. In the one and only public statement he has ever made, he said, my first thought was, I'm going to marry that girl. My second thought was, Lord, she's good looking. And that was the day my life began. He says, I wouldn't trade the last 50 years for nothing on this earth. And you know, Carl Dean isn't some big poetic man. He's not going to sit there and write a big long paragraph about, you know, his undying love for Dolly. But even just those few short sentences, I think, and especially the fact that he doesn't make public statements, and the fact that he went out of his way to make sure to let the world know how much he really does adore this woman. I think it meant so much to Dolly. I think it was such an incredibly beautiful gesture. I just love it so, so much. And again, it's not always exactly what you say. Sometimes it's just that you say it at all. Sometimes it's just, oh, I don't know. It just seems very, very special. That same year, Dolly wrote an entire album of love songs inspired by her relationship with Carl Dean, called Pure and Simple. Then, in October 2020, she addressed the conspiracy theories that Carl Dean wasn't actually a real person. And y'all, I swear, some people just don't have nothing better to do. But there were all kinds of rumors swirling around the internet that Carl Dean wasn't actually a real person, because, of course, he never gets spotted in public because he is not that kind of person. He would like to be his own person and not be, you know, Mr. Dolly Parton. So he keeps his life separate. Well, because nobody had ever seen him out, things like that, people were basically just kind of spewing venom and saying that he wasn't actually a real person, this, that, and the other thing. And it got to a point that it got so bad that Dolly actually had to address the situation. She said, a lot of people have thought that through the years because he does not want to be in spotlight at all. She said, it's just not who he is. He is a quiet, reserved person, and he figured if he ever got out there in that, he'd never have a minute's peace. She said, and he was right about that. I've always respected and appreciated that in him, and I've always tried to keep him out of the limelight as much as I could. She said, he said to her, I didn't choose this world. I chose you, and you chose that world. But we can keep our lives separate and still be together. And we do, and we have. And now we've been married and together for 56 years, married for 54 of them. I mean, and it is so, so true. You have, like, compartmentalize, I guess. Like, just because you don't both want the same things, right? Just because you don't both want the exact same things doesn't mean that it can't work. As long as you take the time to be together, and as long as you take the time to reconnect, you don't have to be up each other's heinies 24 hours of every single day. You can each have your own lives as long as you make a point at the end of the day to come back together. I think that's really what matters. In July of 2021, Dolly recreated her 1978 Playboy cover for Carl Dean's birthday. She said that I always loved her original Playboy cover, so to make him happy on his birthday, she decided to get a duplicate outfit and set up her own photo shoot. Y'all, I saw pictures of that. You can actually follow Miss Dolly on Instagram, and you really, really have to scroll because it was a while ago, but you can see the pictures of it. Super, super cute. She had little bunny ears on, and, you know, the little collar, the little pink collar, and the black bustier. She looked amazing, as always. She said, the last quote, she says, he still thinks I'm a hot chick after 57 years, and I'm not going to try and talk him out of that. Y'all, if that is not an example of a successful relationship, I don't know what would be. Especially when you have two people who are so incredibly different, yet somehow find the understanding and find the compassion and patience. I feel like that's what is one of the hardest things to find in a relationship is patience, right? Because I feel like especially with your significant other, you can sometimes get very impatient. You can sometimes get exasperated, and it can sometimes just be like, oh, you know, it can get to be too much. But I think if you love somebody enough and if you're willing to put in the work, it definitely can happen. If they can make it work, y'all, anybody can make it work. Well, most people can make it work. If you work hard enough and if you're really right for each other, I think it's very, very special. It makes me appreciate my relationship with Mr. Hubby so much. And I'm really, really hopeful for the future. I'm hopeful that at some point we can get to that 50-year mark. Is that the silver or the diamond anniversary? I don't know. Y'all, of course, I did not finish my makeup, but I will. I will finish my makeup and post finished pictures over on Instagram and Facebook. All the links and all the products will be in the description box below. I do so hope that you enjoyed today's story. I had a good old time telling you guys. If you have any requests for next week's True Love Tuesday, just let me know in the comments if you've got any requests for videos you'd like to see in the future. I am here for it. My ears are wide open. As always, no filters, no edits, no fancy lighting. It's just me sitting in front of my camera, doing my makeup, telling you guys an epic love story, hoping y'all are enjoying what I'm doing. And until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and remember, you're important. Bye.